So this is a conference about all sorts of adaptation scenarios, the kinds of things that we need to think about in the future, and some of the methodologies we might employ as we prepare for adaptation. It's also about an update on some of the science. The IPCC, the fifth assessment report, has just come out, the interim assessment, and it tells us quite a lot about regional issues that we should be concerned about. So this conversation specifically deals with the Southern Africa region, and so quite specific, quite apt, which is not always what you find when you're talking about climate scenarios and adaptation possibilities.
And specifically, the talk that you gave was around?
I spoke around the issue of community engagement, participatory community engagement, and our approach, which we have developed by a practice, which is grounded in the principles of participatory research methodology, which basically means that you work with your stakeholder directly and involve them quite directly in the process of your work. So with our work, we are introducing technologies, renewable energy technologies in particular, and when one introduces technology, you are obviously making a significant change to the existing system. And so we really try and look at what it is that we can carefully do to introduce that technology and to ensure that we're not actually breaking things that are already working within the system. And when I say the system, I mean the social system, the community, how it is that communities are already living and living well, and trying to hold on to those things while we introduce this new technology.
Of course, I guess it's not just the technology, but it's the thinking
Yeah.
that one has to look at.
Yes, because people are quite aspirational. In South Africa, we've got a long history of inequality. We've got a long history of people being actively kept out of the system and actively kept away from benefits that accrue to anybody. So there's a lot of aspiration for the things that modern energy services can provide, for instance, and I'm thinking of things like motor cars or television and so on. So we really work with community to see how they can use what it is they already have and have these technologies add value to that, rather than seeing it as the solution to a different way of living.
Can you give us a couple of the lessons you've learned from this that you walk away with in terms of obstructions to achieving that and positive things as well?
Yeah. Well, you learn a lot of humility when you do this work, because you come into a space which is dynamic and which comes with expectations. There are a lot of expectations when you walk in with an offering of technology. And it takes quite a while for communities to see that we are approaching them as partners and that we are really wanting to work with them on finding mutual solutions that are going to work for what they need them to do, and which are not going to so very significantly change the situation that was before. It's got to be something that makes it better, but not necessarily something that breaks what was working before. So the obstacles that we encounter are often just the ways in which power plays out, and when you have been at the receiving end of being kept out of the system, you do tend to look at the world around you and think, in order to get what I want, I need to act in a certain, draw on a certain set of strategies, and some of those strategies can be really counterproductive and destructive. So we really work with people to see how it is that opportunities can be utilized and harnessed without resorting to the destructive options that exist. So maybe I can be a little bit more specific and say, for instance, we have a community, most communities that we come and work with have got a structure in place. They've got a structure that deals with decision making or with conflict or any kind of issues that need consideration at a communal level. And we really work with that existing structure and make sure that everyone owns the process that we're going forward with, rather than, for instance, saying, just sign up and come and fetch your thing. We work with how is it that we can work together with the existing structure, make it stronger, and move on from there. One of the communities we worked with, we have been working with for about 18 months now. In the beginning, when we arrived at this community, they were really keen on lighting, having access to electrified lights in their homes. And they were feeling really that there was a dignity association with the fact that they were living in darkness, or that they were dependent on candles or paraffin to get just light. And we had a conversation about the technology options that were available. We have a solar lighting kit, which we've developed in partnership with communities elsewhere, that we could offer them. But we didn't want to go straight into a leap from candles into light boxes. So we talked about the different the situation in the community. There were issues around water access. There were issues around safety, and around the ways in which communities members were unemployed. So we talked about a whole basket of options that were available, and that involved a sequence of introduction of technologies. So we started with wonder bags, which are really great accessories for reducing cooking time on top of stovetops. And then we introduced fuel efficient cooking stoves, and they just use very much less wood and have an immediate impact on demand of biomass. And as we introduced those technologies, we started to have conversations around how it is that there could be job creation components, how some of the women in the community could make wonder bags, how you could make your own cook stove, and how you could then influence the next village to start to utilize those tools. And impatience continued to grow for the lighting, of course, and we relented. We came in with the lighting earlier than planned, slightly earlier than planned, but we did it on the basis of an agreement that the community would actually be involved in the assembly on site, so that we would spend less on getting it transported in completely prepared mode. By saving that money, the community could then have extra light kits out of the budget. So there was a strong sense that they had contributed to the overall process, and how many people eventually benefited from it.